The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today on our show, we have Amos Knoll, who's a publisher in a fabulous industry that really welcomes books that are really good. And he is a veteran of the publishing world who still brings a sort of freshness and candor to his works. Now, the other person on our show is Dawn Fifield. Now, Dawn Fifield was born in Fort Worth, Texas, and raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She graduated from the University of South Florida with a degree in mass communication. She dreamed of writing and directing and producing her own stories, and that is a wonderful thing to be able to do, Dawn. And I want to welcome both of you, Amos and Dawn, to the Susan Brender Show. It's really great to have you on the show. Now, let's start off, Amos. You produced and really have written, you said, over 40 books.
Yes.
Something inspired you to do that. I'd like our audience to hear why.
Everyday life. All my books have a meaning behind them. Like, for example, in the book, Mama, Why Am I Black? Just look what's going on. All the racial issues, which doesn't even make sense to me. And I wanted to bring it out to everybody's attention that we are still one human race. Or a book like The Little Snow Boy. Here's a book about miracles. Miracles in the year 2000 can still happen. And sometimes when something happened, don't question it, just accept it the way it is. Or a book like The Flower That Could Not Talk. It's about a boy who's mute. He can't talk, but he learns how to communicate with Mother Nature. Then, of course, you have Max and the Red-Headed Dragon. Oh, does that fit in today's time? It has a simple message, and it's so hard for people to understand it. Don't judge people by the color, gender, lifestyle, or the way they look. Judge people only what's in the heart and mind. That's the message. And in the short story books, I try to add a lot of pictures to them too. So people can not only see the words, they can see the picture. And I try to combine the picture and the words, like almost sculpture them together.
Yeah.
Then you have a book like The Chubby Conqueror. We have in the US an obesity epidemic. We have over 243 million of us who are overweight, fat, or whatever you want to call it, and of course obese.
Yeah.
And out of those numbers, 23 million of those numbers are our children. And the kids today have the same symptoms as elderly people. High blood pressure, enlarged kidneys, sleep apnea. Later on, they can't walk because of the weight. So this is an epidemic. And I think it's costing our nations right now in medical related items about 250 billion with a B a year. And there's no end in sight.
I understand
so you can see
that.
all my books have something to do with today's time, and they all resonate. So far, we're getting a tremendous amount of compliments from the public.
As you should. Now, Dawn, do you think that there's a need for Amos's book, Mama, Why Am I Black?
I'll definitely agree with what Amos said, because we're a country divided, not only based on racial issues, political issues, you name it, somebody for some reason feels a reason to start disagreements. So Mama, Why Am I Black is really a way of uniting people based on their racial affiliation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But also, I like Mama, Why Am I Black? Because it's a reminder of Black history. I think we need to remind kids of all ethnicities as to what the Black history is and what people went through, because those struggles resonate with any struggle. I have a philosophy that you don't necessarily have to be Black to experience discrimination.
Right.
Everybody. So Mama reminds us as a society that discrimination, everybody experienced it and has a history. Look at this history and look how they overcame. It's a good lesson in coping. Also, the book covers women's suffrage. When Amos approached me with that, we were working, because I did the editing for Mama Why Am I Black, and he said he wanted to add women's suffrage. And I didn't know a whole lot about it before until I started doing the work.
Mhm.
And women's suffrage was actually a precursor to civil rights. And I had not realized how important that was.
Yeah.
And it needed to happen to welcome in civil rights, to open a door for that. And also, Mama Why Am I Black? I think it's probably one of the first children's books to have an introduction to biracial historical figures.
Yeah.
So Mama Why Am I Black is very important for all those reasons.
Amos, you've written, of course, so many books, but this one is really special, and particularly at this time, okay? We have this white or Black Matters group going on. We have all this racial discrimination. And in fact, I'm going to say to you, Dawn, you have a disease, I guess you call it a disease, a mental issue with bipolar and, of course, anxiety and depression. And did you find, and I'm going to go back to Amos in a minute, but did you find that you've been discriminated against?
Very much so. And it's weird. It's a silent discrimination. There is such a stigma attached to it that if you even mention your diagnosis, especially if you use the word bipolar, whether it's bipolar 1 or 2, and believe it or not, there's 5 different categories, you have a tendency to see people open their eyes wide. Sometimes I precurse when I'm about to say what my diagnosis is. I will say, look, I'm stable. You don't have to run from the room, but I have bipolar disorder. So on the job, if somebody goes in there and says, I have cancer, or if I have diabetes, they'll get an extra 10 minutes for meds or extra time off to cope with treatments. However, if you go into a job interview and saying, I will need an accommodation if I wake up and I just can't handle the stress of the job or life or everything, I'm going to need to call in sick. Do you mind giving me an extra sick day? Or I'll need an extra 5 minutes if something stressful happens and I need to decompress.
Yeah.
Or I use a psychiatric service dog. And there is nobody in the retail industry or really in the customer service industry that will allow you a service animal. And that's why I was so very blessed to come upon Amos for my career, because Amos is very understanding with the service animal.
Amos, what message do you think the little snowboy offers today?
Can I add something to what Dawn said?
Step right in.
When I interviewed her originally, and she was very honest with me, and I admire that, because today it's very hard to find honest people, unfortunately, but they're still there. And she told me about her situation, and I said, and the explanation she gave me said, look, if a person has diabetes, they got to take insulin. If they don't, they can die. If they have a heart condition, they got to take medication. They can die. So if I take my medication, I'm okay. So I said, make me one promise, you keep on taking the medication. Because she was well qualified, and unfortunately, she never really had a chance. And in all honesty, and Dawn, I don't want to blow your horn right now, but the truth of the matter is she turned out to be a hell of a woman. And there's nothing, I mean, she's really the back operation. Now she does the editing, and she can tell you about it too. Sure. About the marketing. We're doing a big marketing campaign starting, I think next week. They're finishing it off this week. When people talk about handicaps, like anything else, today there are many ways to overcome it. And the name of the book is going to be In the Dawn, Early Light, and the book will end. I'm writing about her, by the way. And so proudly she stands. Familiar words. Now ask me the other question.
I think that's fabulous. Now, I asked you before, what message do you think the little snowboy offers today's children? Because, again, it's another book that has like a meaning. It has a source of information that children need. So would you tell our audience what the information that they will find in that book?
Today, everybody tries scientifically, and I can put a quotation mark on it, explanation. Things happen in life that we don't understand. And this boy becomes alive through a miracle. You got to read the book. You would love it. So far, everybody does anyway. And the message is sometimes accept things. If a miracle happened, don't try to be a scientist. Why, how come? If it happens, accept it. And that's what happens. The boy was basically, in short, the story. The girl created a snow angel. She formed her heart and she stuck it in the cavity. And so big blizzard, lightning storms, etc., he becomes a real boy. And later on, he sacrifices his life to save a whole family because he never had a family before, obviously. And with a lot of good deeds and things happen in life, he becomes a real boy. But it's few people who read it said to me, "Oh my God, I got tears in my eyes." But it has a beautiful ending.
Now, it's an interesting thing that you just said, because a lot of our children today are born to teen parents, and they're faced with the situation of being alone a lot and not being given any kind of advice or help or anything that's really valuable to them. Dawn, if you had an opportunity to talk about some of Amos's books, which book really kind of relates to the people who are, as I told you, the children who were alone and hoping and wishing that they had love? Love is the most important thing, don't you think?
I completely agree with you on that. If I had to pick one of the books that I had to only pick one, that would be hard, but I definitely believe that The Little Snow Boy would be the book that I would pick to teach children not to give up and to believe in miracles, because within the book, the character of Michael, just the fact that he becomes an actual sentient being against, I couldn't even fathom the odds. So I think the message there is don't give up, believe in miracles. The other thing too, I think what really zaps hope from children in today's world, I do volunteer work and I've gone in low income areas, and I've seen children that don't have any hope in their eyes. And I believe that children and people lose hope because they lose value in their life as a human being, the value of life of others.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of our problems in society stem from. But just on the basic level of a child feeling lost, it's because they don't feel valued. They don't value their own life. So if they don't, you can have 10 people telling you how wonderful you are, but if you don't learn to value your own life, that means nothing. So to that hope, I think would resonate with children.
Amos, you heard what Dawn said with regard to having children have values. Now, if you were to write about values, give me a list of values that are missing in our society today among children, okay?
Very simple. I can give you a true story. I have a very close family. I have two daughters. They have children. And one of my granddaughters, she passed away 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. And her son, Max, who was a character in different stories like Max and the Red Dragon. We had a discussion, and he was talking about his friend that they have a lot of money. His father drives a Ferrari, the regular stuff. And I said, Max, do you want to have all those things? He says, yeah. I said, is he very happy with his dad and mom? He says, no, he's always alone. And now, especially with the school, they have somebody staying at home with them. I said, who do you think is richer, you or him? Now, let's see what you have. You have a papa, that's me, I'm his great-grandfather. You have Safta, which is his grandmother, my wife. He has his grandma, which is my daughter. Then he has Tammy, and you have Debbie. So, and of course his cousin Justin and Edison and Chloe. And I said, can you put a value of money on it? He says, no. Who do you think is richer? He looked at me and he says, Papa, I'm the richest man in the world. How can you argue with him? Which is the truth, by the way. Today we spoil the kids. A lot of parents think when they get money, they're not at home, they make excuses. Well, I'm working, I gotta make money. By the way, I used to use those excuses. When I was a builder developer for almost 40 years, I was working 24 hours a day. And my wife says, Amos, please, I don't care about the money. I don't want to be the richest. I don't want you to be the richest man in the cemetery. Mm-hmm. And right. It's a made-up value system, what you teach your children. So really the family, that's what makes you rich. Well, I have to admit.
Right, you're not alone with that thought. Now, here's the thing, Dawn, I'm interested in understanding. Today we live in a digital world, and a lot of books are online, and people are reading them on their computers. Now, Amos has produced almost 43 books, as he said, and they're big books and they're beautiful books, but are people going to read them? Because today that digital world is absolutely powerful.
It's my hope that people are going to read the book. I think, as with any form of entertainment or communication, you're going to have built-in audiences. And I think that's what makes Amos's books kind of have a leg up, if you will, because he's writing children's books and parents are always looking for those books. And I think the art of holding a book within your hand, smelling the paper, smelling the ink, looking at the glossy photos, I still think that there is a demand for that. And when it comes right down to it, books don't need batteries or power cords. So I think there is always going to be a desire for books.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because you know what? There's something about the feel of a book. As you mentioned it's the smell of the pages, it's the ink on the book. Now, Amos, when you wrote Max and the Red-Haired Dragon, there was some kind of conclusion that you got to, and I want our audience again to understand why you wrote it and what was the conclusion that you came up with.
Well, one day Max asked me, he must have been about 4 years old, 4.5, he says, Papa, how come I have red hair? And I told him, well, Max, about 2% of the world's population has red hair. And that gave me the idea about the book Max and the Red-Headed Dragon. And where he basically had a dragon come over to him every morning before he goes to school. They go on a trip to different parts of the world. They meet different animals. And they are all which have a red tint, whether it's a tiger, red fox, etc. And I want to get the message out about human beings also, that we belong to one human race. Now, one of the things I want to add to the question that you asked, Dawn, one of the things to be competitive. Now, I have books 200 pages and longer, but I found that you want your competition against video games, everything fast. So what I try to do is a short story is considered a story that has up to about 7,500 pages. 7,000 words. So what I do is I also get very detailed pictures drawn up. And I use artists from all over the world, Bangladesh, India, Russia, Italy, literally. And so I try to sculpture the words and the pictures. So what happens is when you look at the cover, it's wow, it's interesting. And they open up and the same type of pictures they see inside the book. So when kids pick it up, literally, they just keep on turning the pages. I grab their interest. And when they see the picture and the words, that keeps them excited. So that's why I think I'm very competitive.
Yeah,
a lot of kids do not want to pick up a book with 200 pages, which I understand. So in that sense, I think they're extremely successful, because not only that, when parents pass by and they look at the books, it gets their attention. And so who buys the book? Not the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids, it's the parents.
Sure.
And a few times I went to reading before they had the virus to some old age homes. The elderly people loved it. They loved the pictures, and and I printed them a little bigger, and I put it on heavy stock paper. I designed my books like a keepsake book. And so the elderly people, of course, the parents, they like it. So it's really meant for everybody.
You know, Amos, it's a very wonderful thing that you've done in making these books and resonate with a lot of people. I want to bring Dawn in again because Dawn, the topics in these novels will be viewed as cliche or overdone. Is that what you think?
I think there are some people that are going to say that. However, these topics don't change over years. The conflicts that arise from them don't change over the year. The need to have somebody remind you about what's important, the lessons that are taught in these books, they're timely.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's one generation saying, yeah, I experienced that in my previous life, you've got the next generation. There will always be somebody in this world that will need to hear these messages. There's also going to be people out there that are going to need a resource for these messages. So having these books available to them, I'll refer to Mama Why Am I Black? I know some biracial families, and they say, I don't see people like our family on the bookshelves or in the media.
Right.
And now we have a book. Or The Flower That Could Not Talk.
Mm-hmm.
I particularly like that book very much as well. And I adore the illustrations, I adore the story. And of course, though I don't consider myself disabled, having a disability, it is nice to see a story out there. And the fact that it's geared toward young people, because if you want to change the future, educate the present. Okay, copyright 2020 Dawn Fifield. I really believe that if you want to make a better future, you need to reach the children early and you need to teach them. And these books do that. So I don't think they are cliche. There's always going to be a need for them.
It's interesting that you said that. The value of those books can't even be, you can't put a value on them because these are stories that reach a lot of people because they all have a message. So Amos, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to read your books, if they want to say something to you, how do they get in touch with you?
Two ways. They can always call. The number is 561-347-1200. You can go to our website, which I recommend. It's www.publishing.com. And they can sign in, and of course I can communicate with them. Now the website, I expect this week or next week. Dawn, you have their schedule. They're going to update it, and but they can look at the website and they can see the kind of pictures, the kind of books, the covers, and some of the insights what we do. It will tell you everything about me and the books.
Now, Dawn, I always like to ask my guests to have a last word. There must be something that you want to tell our audience because you really are very inspiring. I mean, you faced a disability even though you don't think it's so, but you did. And you've overcome it. And this job that you're doing with Amos is really part of it. So there must be something that you want to say that people will want to hear.
Thank you very much for the compliment, and Amos also thank you for being very complimentary as well. I would like to tell people, mainly to the people who look upon somebody with a physical disability, a mental health issue, or anyone facing a challenge, first of all, reach out to them. Don't, again, like Amos says, don't judge somebody by the way they look or their race or their lifestyle, gender, etc. We all have something to offer the world, and we all need that chance to follow through with that offering and to give something back. That's one thing I've never ever wanted to be looked at as disabled. I don't want people to give me things. I want to do it for myself, and I want to give back. If you want to deal with what you're going through, give back, volunteer, do something for somebody else, and you will learn not only the value of another human being, but the value of yourself.
what could be more wonderful than that statement that Dawn just made? And I want to thank you both, Amos and Dawn, for being on the Susan Brender Show. It's really been a pleasure.
Susan, it's been our pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Amos.
Thank you very much for the opportunity as well, Susan.
And thank you, Dawn.